Now some translation agencies are also using process and they call it MTPE plus revision. Very strange for me, because for me it's similar to when you cook an instant soup and ask the chef to season it to the level of 5-star restaurant.
And welcome everyone to another great episode of Slater Pod. Today, we are really happy to have Jakub Absalon on the podcast. So Jakub is the CEO of azaptranslation.com, an LSP based in Slovakia, headquartered there. Hi, Jakub, and thanks for joining.
Hi, and thank you very much for having me, Florian, indeed. And congratulations to your work.
Great to hear. Thank you. So where does this podcast find you? Are you in Slovakia? What city?
Yes, we are based in Slovakia. We have branch office in Prague, but everything is managed from Slovakia.
Before we get started, just tell us a bit more about your professional background, linguistic background. You work at uni as well and run, of course, AZAP Translations. Just share that story and your journey becoming, founder CEO of AZAP Translation.
Originally, I wanted to study geography, but I finished as a teacher of English and physical education. So my master thesis was about translation process in translation of professional sports text. Then I have been working as a prison officer, where I've been teaching English, but not prisoners, but officers. And I was also a translator for Slovak Prison Service. Then I switched career and worked for Heineken Slovakia. But as my colleague from Netherlands said, you switched a lot, but you are still behind the bars. Yes. So then I worked as a HR specialist responsible for succession planning and recruitment. That was a great school, and skills I have learned I am still using as an entrepreneur. For example, creation of a job profile based on competencies, behavior event interviewing, again based on competencies, mapping of job processes, and so on. Then short stay in HR department of Emerson Slovakia. And then we started to build our own company together with my wife and colleague Katarina. She's responsible for all the production, and I'm responsible for strategic planning, technology, marketing. I'm also teaching at university as an external lecturer. I teach subjects like IT for translators, GET tools, and project management, and so on.
Tell me, why would a prison guard need to learn English? Was it kind of just an additional option for them, or was there a day-to-day usefulness?
It was just additional option. Yes, no compulsory.
All right. So on the client side, services. So AZAP Translations. Tell us a bit more. What's your kind of client focus, text type focus, content focus?
So ASAPtranslation.com is a medium-sized translation company with 13 employees, which has operating on the market for more than 20 years. We are based in Slovakia, as we have mentioned, and we have a branch office in Prague. But as I mentioned, everything is managed from Slovakia. We are a family business managed by me and my wife Katarina. At the time of establishment of our company, there were mainly large foreign translation companies on the market and a number of 1 to maximum 2 persons firm. Our goal was to create a mid-sized company that provides comprehensive localization services and uses processes of large companies, but also wanted to attain the efficiency of a small firm. We have succeeded in this, I hope, and in recent years we have been ranked 5th in the Slovak market. In our over 20 years of existence, we have completed more than 150,000 translation projects in more than 120 language combinations. In addition to translation, we also provide other language services like proofreading, voiceover, post-editing, transcription, localization, interpretation, subtitling, terminology database creation, SEO translation, CAT tool implementation consultancy, and others. So you can see everything because the market is very small. Regarding the client segmentation, half of our clients are businesses from Slovakia and Czech Republic. But regarding revenue, the more important is our work for LSPs, where we provide them with translation with combination of Central and Eastern European languages like Slovak, Czech, Polish, Hungarian, Ukrainian, mostly these languages in combination with anything. Domain of translated text has changed significantly, where we started with general administrative text, then user manuals become the biggest segment. Currently, we can say that we do a lot of medical text, marketing, still technical text, but also legal text, and of course, e-commerce. Still, more and more, we provide our clients with specialized services like search engine optimization, translation, transcription, and subtitling. We are also involved in educational and awareness-raising activities, where we've been providing CAT training for many, many years. And in cooperation with Department of Translation Studies at the University in Nitra, we have managed to bring subject project management this year. We are quite proud of this. At a time when CAT tool were not a translator standard tool, we lectured at various conferences to show translators that despite the required discounts for repetition and matches, the use of CAT is ultimately a time saver for translator, so that the translator earns more per hour than without the use of CAT tools. We would be happy to do the same with post-editing of machine translation.
We're going to talk about post-editing a lot. So, but first, let me ask you about some of the big kind of LSPs, MLVs, super agencies, whatever you call them, that you work with. So have you observed kind of any shifts maybe over the past 10 years and how they outsource the company like yours?
Most of the time, we are at the very bottom of the supply chain, so we are quite familiar with working both for so-called super agencies as well as for regional LSPs or MLVs operating between us and this super agency. Last years, I listened a lot about making supply chain lean. Even I have listened to the theory that LSP will work without project management team because project management could be replaced by AI. I am quite a skeptic in this. Definitely parts of the project management process could be supported by AI, but I understand project management like a local HR department of localization company. So I think that there will be still some project management. It would be possible if the translation and localization tasks were smooth and easy, but they are often very complicated, and project management is here to be a connector between client and translator. So no significant change, I think, between last 10 years.
I mean, fully replacing project management with AI. I don't see that. Like, I wouldn't know how that would work completely. But of course, all these systems get a lot smoother, and so some parts are kind of removed, but maybe not by AI, just by general software, right? Now, how would you describe kind of the business mood? I don't know, for lack of a better term, right now, kind of European Union, SME, LSPs. Like, what are some of the concerns that you have, or some of your peers have, and like some of the opportunities that you're thinking that are coming up?
Last 2 years, we were surprisingly very successful for us, and as I know, the same for our competitors. This year looks completely different. And I must say, I do not know why. So it's still more difficult to make a profit because there are more and more small projects which are very demanding but do not bring a big profit. So it starts to be very challenging to manage standard company with full-time employees. We are ready to become even more effective, but at the same time, we need to work hard on our marketing, especially on United EU market. We strongly believe in EU project. And regarding our business-to-business clients, I mean no LSP clients, we mostly operate on very small Slovak and Czech market. So I see opportunity to open new markets for B2B clients. And regarding LSPs, we currently provide our clients with Slovak and Czech language mostly, but we are able to manage other Central and Eastern European languages, especially Hungarian, Polish, Ukrainian, Russian. So maybe this will be our direction.
Do you work mostly with, I mean, probably like 80-90% with freelancers, like, I guess, and do you like retain them in some shape or form, or?
Yes, we do with freelancers, but in case of end client from Slovak and Czech market, when we call it foreign to foreign language. Yes, if we do not have project managers speaking with native language, they asked us. So we use some partner agency. For example, if there would be a demand from Japanese to I don't know Portuguese. So we definitely use company LSP where we know the process is the same as in our company. At the beginning, we tried to use freelancers also for these combinations, but it was not easy and it brought many problems. So this is the standard way how we work.
Now, you've been in post-editing, kind of thinking about post-editing, looking at post-editing, reviewing post-editing, and also, of course, implementing in your own company for a long time. I mean, like when we did our research, I think that the first mention was like 2015. So tell us, how has it evolved?
You know me better than me.
There you go. We do our research, right? So yeah, how has it evolved since then? I mean, I remember, in my LSP days, like it was kind of borderline like gibberish. It was like rules-based statistics. So post-editing just didn't make any sense. But obviously with 2015, 16, it kind of changed. But just in a nutshell, how has it evolved since you started looking at it?
Yes, you are right. We were testing usage of machine translation from the very beginning. We focus on modern technologies and processes, whether it is in the translation process itself, where we were also among the first users of CAT tools in Slovakia and Czech Republic, but also in communication and marketing. So we are trying to use all the modern techniques and technology. We also tackle machine translation, where we have tested about, let's say, 8 machine translation providers. We currently use only 2 of them, and I must say that they are generic, not custom MT engines. Also, we have tested, create our own custom MT engine. So now we use the 2 of them that best suit our needs in terms of language combinations and domains. We try to build custom models, as I have mentioned. However, it is not suitable for small and middle-sized LSP company, I believe, because we have many small clients in different domains. So it's not easy to build something special for them. If the customer does not forbid usage of machine translation, because it happens, it is forbidden to use it, as long as if it is not a problem for translator, because it also happens. We always connect MT within a CAT tool. We have considered for many years machine translation as one of the translation resources complementing translation memory and terminology database. We have also devoted a lot of time, effort, and money to the post-editing of machine translation, which we provide as a separate service for our clients. Our competitive advantage is that we used so-called dynamic translation quality management. That is also why we are not certified on 17100, because we believe that there is not only one solution for our clients, which in practice means that we can provide different levels of translation quality from raw MT through post-editing or MTPE, as now people like to call it, through regular translation by professional translator to TEP system or ISO 17100 compliant translation. So we can do all this range for our clients. In terms of terminology, for post-editing, we still use PEMT as a product, yes, for post-edited machine translation, and MTPE for process, as machine translation post-editing. It could be also as a kind of tribute to MT pioneers, because in 1950s, 60s, when the ALPAC report also uses the term post-edited machine translation. Yes, so dynamic quality management is also our huge advantage for e-commerce clients, where there are huge volumes of translations, and it is practically impossible for them to use regular translation or TEP process. Also, my PhD thesis was about post-editing of machine translation. And we also published an ebook, Human Translator, which deals specifically with the role of human translator in the age of machine translation. So we did a lot with post-editing. And currently, yes, there are still higher demand for these services, but unfortunately for full post-editing. There is almost no demand for classic post-editing on the lower level of quality.
So let's dive into this term, full post editing. And you've been a vocal critic of it. You wrote some pieces. You actually have something on YouTube as well. So outline your criticism of the concept full post editing in a bit more detail. What do you mean by that?
Yes. So as you can see, we are not definitely against the technology.
No, you're certainly not. Because that's what on our side, when we're researching, like initially, like, oh, he's a critic of post editing. And like we dug deeper. No, he's not a critic of post editing, a full post editing, because the expert on post editing, right?
Exactly. Yes. Because we are surprised by the effort to promote the so-called full post editing, where the desired result is qualitatively at the almost same level like a human translation. The theory of existence of full post-editing and light post-editing was also reflected in 2017 in ISO standard, where full post-editing is defined as a process of correcting machine translation output to obtain a product comparable to human translation. I'm reading this. The very fact that the standard uses the phrase or term comparable is almost grotesque to me, because I believe that the standard should precisely define its subject and not just to set values that are open to interpretation. It's something similar when somebody uses good enough quality. Yes, it's the same. It's funny for me. Unfortunately, the IT company's marketing or lobby is very strong, and raising this topic on conferences is not very popular. Instead, we hear more and more about the end of translators and amazing performance of NMT and LLMs. Yes, I am a great fan of NMT and LLM. It's fantastic. I can't imagine how they are able to do it. The practice, however, is quite different. People still demand quality, but thanks to the full post-editing theories, they would like to buy a quality translation at half the price. The client then believes that after all, the MT engine has actually already done everything, and all translators need to do is find few errors made by robot. It's like putting a needle in the haystack and pay the needle seeker or needle hunter by the number of needles found.
I saw that. You had like an image in your post, right, with that one.
MT has clearly brought more efficiency to translation process, and it is more than 100% certain that there will be soon no translation without MT or without pre-translating, just as it happened with translation memory. However, a human will still be needed to check and correct the translation if necessary. It is the human translator, or otherwise known as a post-editor, who is ultimately responsible for the translation. Responsibility is the key. If you use one of the available machine translation engine on the internet, for example, Google or DeepL, you must first agree that the MT engine, it means the company that runs the service, is not responsible for the translation. Yes? So regarding post-editing, if you think that the translator who reads text at the speed of light cannot make a mistake, I think that you are very wrong. So that's why PE service, post-editing service, should also have limited liability up to me. If the translator is to be fully responsible for translation, he must be given time to do so the translator can do not only revision, but also research and decision-making. Thus, if we demand 100% quality from the translator at the level of his maximum ability, up to me, it's a human translation, not post-editing. Even the translator used MT or LLM in the translation process.
That's an interesting theory. Let me just try to unpack this a bit. So what you're saying is machine translation in this sense is basically a productivity enhancement. But if you're telling me to do full post editing, what you're essentially demanding is a human translation. And I don't really care if I got to this human translation using no technology, using translation memory, or editing something that a sophisticated AI outputted. It doesn't really matter. As if you're demanding from me full post editing, you're demanding complete human translation, and it doesn't really matter what led to this end result.
Yes, and clients don't care what I'm using. Maybe I'm using some books or something, but they don't care. I'm not talking about the prices. I'm talking about the process. And I believe that the human translation is the same as the full post editing. And by the way, we are using, as I have mentioned, our translators are using MT for many years. So it's nothing new. What has changed that we are given pre-translated text by client, what is even worse for many of the translators because they have to edit it, and they ask us for the half of the price. Yes, so okay, let's talk about the prices, but do not talk about the full post editing. Yes, so that's my theory, because I believe that the professional translator use or should use MT only as a tool, but translator is still a process owner. So it's up to his decision or her decision what is he or she is going to use. In contrast with the ordinary user of MT, where the MT serves as a tool for basic understanding. Yes, for example, I am on my holiday in Spain. I don't understand Spanish. I see the sign. I turn my smartphone on, scan the sign, and I found out, for example, the bus stop is temporarily out of service. So that's absolutely different usage of MT. A professional translator, I believe, must never get to the level of earlier mentioned consumer and must not use MT to understand the translated text. Under no circumstances should translator use MT to translate a text that would not otherwise understand or unfamiliar topic. Yes? Doing so, translator risk fatal translation error. Instead, translator uses MT just to increase the speed of translation, and together with online resources and translation memories, MT allows him to obtain wider range of possible solution of translation problem. Yes, so and I believe that quality comes hand in hand with guarantee or liability. Therefore, regarding quality assurance, I believe there are 4 types of translation services. First, raw MT, there is no guarantee for quality, no liability. The second, post-editing or MTPE, with a limited liability because we expect there are still some minor errors in the post-edited text. But there is also a significant risk that post-editor can make a mistake because of high speed of the process. And the third, it's a regular translation by a professional translator with full guarantees, but this service is still not suitable for high risk or high visibility texts, like, for example, expensive prints or manuals where the error can cause some serious injuries or even death of user. Yes, and the last type of the translation is TEP process or 17100 translation with full guarantees. Yes, so the risk management, which we call dynamic translation quality management, is necessary before we choose proper quality assurance for our translation. That's why we have problem to accept definition of full post-editing and light post-editing. In full post-editing, they want you to be fully liable for your translation, and that is why we believe full post-editing belongs to human translation, as I have mentioned. Also, it is assisted by machine translation. So now we can have let's have a look on post-editing how it is defined in ISO standards. In ISO 18587 and 17100, both define post-editing as edit and correct machine translation output. However, this definition does not apply to situation where the translator sees and uses the suggestion of machine translation tool that is a part of computer-aided translation. So it is omitted from the standard. This is not a post-editing. I don't know why. Then there is a special standard for post-editing, 18587, where full post-editing is a process of post-editing to obtain product comparable to product obtained by human translation, and light post-editing is the process of post-editing to obtain a merely comprehensible text without any attempt to produce a product comparable to a product obtained by human translation. It was read from the standard. But in my opinion, there are another variables that distinguish human translation from post-editing, and they need to be included in the definition. So I'm using this definition. But first, we should ask question, why did post-editing come into existence? Because we wanted to reduce what? Translation costs and delivery time. And for this reason, we define post-editing as follows. Post-editing is a method of rapid translation. Yes, so rapid translation in one important thing, using automated machine or machine translation with subsequent checking and correction by a translator. So still there is a translator, we can call him post-editor, so that the quality of a final product reaches the desired level. And this desired level is also very important because, as I have mentioned, I hate the so-called good enough quality, because I believe that you must define the quality. Yes, it must be defined somewhere. And to meet the speed requirement, the following assumptions are necessary. Post-editor must be familiar with topic and terminology of translated text and must understand process that the text is describing. And also post-editor must be proficient in typing and advanced editing techniques to be able to work fast, and also familiar with software or application. Usually it's Cat2 where the post-editing is done. And to meet the quality requirements, we need the following prerequisite agreed. Yes, raw empty output can only be automatically copied into a translation if there is a presumption that the vast majority of empty translated segments achieve the following quality. Either they are applicable without modification, so absolutely perfect pre-translated text, or applicable with minimum modification, so almost perfect translation. Otherwise, you are losing time as a translator. And it happened many times that still the translation is not so good.
What do you do then? I mean, I totally agree, right? I mean, if the translation is close to perfect or, well, perfect, whatever that means, right? I don't see an error. Fine, I'm faster. But if it's not, then like I'm reading, losing time reading, then I'm starting to edit. And I'm like, well, I can't really edit this. So probably in the end, I'll just delete the whole thing and start from scratch.
You know, there is problem that many studies are made on students or amateur translators or I don't know who. So for them, it's absolutely perfect. And they are 10 times faster with MT. But when you imagine translator who is working 15 years every day, 8 to 10 hours, he's really very fast, such a translator. And for example, I am using MT very, very, very often. But if I am using it for translation just for me or for just information purposes, it's absolutely perfect. I do almost nothing with it. But when it is some material that will be visible, yes, so I I am editing almost every sentence. So that's the difference.
How good is it for Slovak? Like, because my benchmark is always English German, and obviously that's like the top combo almost globally. Maybe English Chinese, English German, so it's quite good. What about English Slovak?
English Slovak is very good, but really it differentiates from the domain. Yes, so the domain is very, very, very important. And I remember time before DeepL that we had problem with German to Slovak. Yes, because it was almost impossible to use. But DeepL, great job from them.
Yeah, they got it. Oh, you're right. They have Slovak in there. They're expanding.
So if I would like to add something, yes. So if we compare human translation, where the translator sees and uses suggestions, yes, and has to achieve maximum quality with the so-called full post editing, where the translator modified the output, I believe the results of both these procedures is technically the same, identical. But if full post editing is half as fast and cheaper than human translation lost its reason for existence. The other possibility that is it's just misleading of the customer, and full post editing should be included among the human translation or just simply forgotten. That's my idea. So for this reason, I think that it is necessary to revise this standard on post editing and stop using maybe this term full post editing. As for discounts for translator, these will always be the results of agreement. So I'm not talking about the prices. However, it is necessary, of course, to offer a price which the translator can operate in the region, because with such a discount, now they are asking for the really sometimes 40% of discount. The hourly rate is coming down, and it's not good for them.
No, it's not good, but it has an end to this, because if the hourly rate's going down, eventually the true experts, linguistic and subject matter experts, are just going to leave the field, and then you're going to have actual issues. Because, I mean, if productivity goes up and you still earn the same amount of money per hour, sure, you can make a living. You're an expert in finance and Slovak and English. Well, let me be a translator, maybe, right? But if the hourly rate then drops, then you're just going to say, look, I'm taking another job, right?
That's what I am talking about. That we are risking that we will lose our translators. Yes, and yes, you will have another translators, but this will be some au pairs or something like this with a knowledge of language. But if somebody means that some doctors or engineers or somebody that they will be translating or post editing during their free time, I do not believe in this. Yes, so and even I want to tell you about one process. Because now some translation agencies are also using process, and they call it MTPE plus revision. Yes, so another very strange for me, very strange process, because for me it's similar to when you cook an instant soup and ask the chef to season it to the level of 5-star restaurant.
So many good quotes, Jakub.
And absolutely funniest thing when you are asked to do it by ISO certified company. So very strange. The choice of, and also what is another not good experience, it's sometimes they ask for post editing with CAT tool, cloud-based CAT tool, and this CAT tool is overloaded. Yes, the servers are overloaded, so the translator waits literally few seconds until they receive the suggestions from MT. And similar is the case when the text contains a large number of tags. Yes, the speed of post-editing itself may be satisfactory, but we must add an effort and time needed to apply the tags correctly in the target text. So such a text is, up to me, also not suitable for post-editing, or you should add some price for tag editing. So that's it.
Tell me more about the tags. I mean, like I haven't been in this for about like on the tag side, so they still show up in the segment, like tags that you have to kind of manipulate around, or wouldn't that be mostly taken care of by the tool?
No, because this MT was not able, I don't know what MT they are using, but there is a lot of work with the tags. So you have to change it, you have to insert it and everything.
Let's go back to this kind of the talent question. So what about expertise versus linguistic skills? As these AI tools get better and better and better, where do you think translators or linguists or language experts, whatever we call them, should put their focus? Do you think they need to focus more on the expertise side? Because kind of like, okay, you got these AI systems and you have to be a lawyer to really add some value to it. Or do you think linguistic skills matter a lot because maybe we can figure out the expert terminology through the AI, or maybe it really depends on obviously the type of text. Like, what are your thoughts there about expertise versus like linguistic skills?
I think that MT really has fundamentally changed the system of work of translator and opens the door to use of the bilingual subject matter experts to perform post-editing, where thanks to their perfect mastery of the terminology and process discussed in the text to be translated, they can actually achieve a higher quality output than a professional translator, who is not an expert in the field, unfortunately. It is therefore vital to adapt the university curricula in translation studies, as well as focus more on terminology management and revision, of course, or proofreading, which will play an increasingly important role in the translation process. So it would be also nice to offer some specialized education to students of translation studies, like, for example, basic nursing or something like this in foreign language, and vice versa, but also in your language, native language, and also vice versa, offer basic translation skill to medical or technical students. But we must not expect that graduated physicians will translate text after they work, as I have mentioned. Yes, so I believe that flexibility of graduates is the key. Also, specialization is very important, but it's very difficult to specialize on small market. So it's maybe easier for, I don't know, German market, but here in Slovakia, everybody is always asking, what are you specialized in? And I just say, we do everything because we have to do it. And all of us, we are using the same translators. Yes, there are maybe 500 translators active, and all companies use the same translators. Yes, of course, we have in our pool and in our database that this translator is perfect for medical texts because maybe his wife is a physician or something like this. But we are using the same. Yes, so it's difficult to.
It's difficult. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the size of the market obviously matters in terms of how much you can even if you can make a living being an absolute niche specialist, you can probably in Germany or China or whatever, but maybe in a smaller market, tougher. Let's move to LLMs. I mean, obviously now for a year, it's been ChatGPT here and there and everything and AI. Like, what do you think about this? Like, has it changed your day to day? Is it mostly hot air so far for you in day to day, or do you really use it already? Have you implemented anything related to large language models, GPT, etc.?
I'm using ChatGPT or Gepetto. We call him Gepetto. An almost day-to-day basis for content creation. That's why it works perfectly. Yes. However, you must know that. You must know first what are you looking for, and you must know the topic. Otherwise, you can be caught in a trap of hallucinating robot, of course. So in SAP, we have kind of discussion group to help solve creative problems in translation. Last week, there were a nice question, how to translate proverb burden shared is a burden halved. Our translator, internal translator, found immediately solution for Czech language, but we had quite a problem to translate it to Slovak language. So a great idea struck me. I'm going to use my friend Gepetto to solve it. I wanted to help him, so I created prompt, something like find all Slovak proverbs starting with word X. The answer was, there is no such a proverb in my database. Then I gave him just easiest prompt, translate this English proverb to Slovak. And Gepetto reacted immediately and started hallucinating and created oven proverb without any sense. If I'm using back translation, it was something like, in my company and evil, the hour is short. So it resembled me, my favorite science fiction movie from Soviet era, where the young girl needed to overcome two robots on guard. She asked them logical question, which burned them their brain processors. So,
Got it. Well, okay. Tough one for our friend ChatGPT to get that. All right, to close off, you were a founding member of the Association of Translation Company of Slovakia, ATZSK. Is this still an ongoing association? If yes, what are some of the activities that you're doing, and what are some of the member benefits people are getting there?
yes. We have to break ourselves. It's I'm good in English, how to say it. So Mid Central Europe, just several weeks ago, the regional conference, which is organized by ATCSK, together with Hungarian, Czech, Austrian association, won the first EU ATC Association Initiative Award. So we are happy. And regarding future events, we are preparing now one very interesting webinar for our members. And the topic is LLM and NMT. And we are preparing it with cooperation of Institute of Formal and Applied Linguistics of Charles University in Prague. So I'm really looking forward to be participant of this webinar. And regarding some regular and ongoing activities, we are working on connection with and cooperation with universities, which provides translation studies program, because cooperation with educational institutions are from the very beginning of ATCSK our priority. It's mainly focused to help them to connect education with the practice. So still alive, ATCSK.
Let's make sure that we are still alive in 2 to 3 years. So what's your outlook for the broader industry, for your company in the next, I don't know, let's say 2 to 3 years, because 5 years, who knows, right?
I believe the industry will grow, but it will be still more and more about post-editing and content creation rather than regular translation. And that's why we are also offering multilingual content creation and SEO translation in our company. And regarding the supply chain, I really do believe and agree that some clients will create automatic system to skip LSPs and will go directly to freelance suppliers. But in case of need of for high quality translation and in case of complicated projects, there will be still need for pre-processing, post-processing, vendor management. So I believe we will be still here. But it will be better to grow than to risk the position at the very end of supply chain.
All right, Jakub, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thank you very much. And I hope that it was in good enough quality.
It was, yeah, now I'm lacking a good closer here. Fully, not post-edited, fully live recorded. All right, thank you so much.